Woody, how are you? Good afternoon to you.
Oh, thank you.
Trying to connect my screen. Okay. Looks like
Who
we're
is our Zoom person today?
Carrie.
Carrie,
She's,
you usually don't start recording until the public's been admitted. I don't know. Has the public been admitted?
no, we haven't started the meeting yet.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and,
Dr. John, or Madam President, I had one thing to say. Did Carrie talk to you about the order of the items today?
yes, I will be making some changes. So thank you, Gary.
Okay.
It's going to be 2:00. I guess who is this? We do have some public already in. I think okay. So I'm going to go ahead and can everybody hear me? Is everybody? Okay.
Yes.
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 Good. Okay, so we're going to start a meeting. So welcome to our June 24th, 2021 Montecito Sanitary District General Meeting. And we're going to go ahead, call the meeting to order. And we'll go ahead and let the public in. I think they're already here. So I will just make a statement regarding the meeting decorum. So while our MSD board is in session, all board members must preserve order, decency, and decorum at all times and be respectful while others. Please wait till I acknowledge you to comment or ask a question on any of the items that we're discussing. Okay, so welcome. Let's go ahead and do roll call. Carrie, I automatically say Betsy, but Carrie, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Madam President. Director Fuller?
Here.
Director Eversole?
Here.
Director Newquist?
Here.
Director Barrett?
Here.
And Director Madam Chair Johnson?
Here, present, thank you. So we're going to bring this back to, thank you for the roll call. If there's any public comment, is there any raised hands? Carrie, please let me know.
This time I do not see any raised hands, Madam President, but I will keep an eye out. Thank you.
So before we approve the minutes, I just want to go ahead and have everyone look at the agenda. And there's going to be just a few things. If the board will look at that on item in the old business, item number 5D, that will be moved up to item A in old business. Okay, so if you can make that change. In item E, which is the fiscal year 2021-22 budget, that would be item B, okay? And then the committee report of the ad hoc committee for which is Barrett and Eversole for the Lilac Grove guidelines, that will be moved and replaced to D and E, okay? So that would be your, B would be also, yes, E, okay? We're just switching the two. And then we will have our ad hoc of our personnel, because we did meet, we'll have that actually before the A item, okay? So let's go ahead and, was there any questions on that? Has everybody understood that? That we're going to be, and I think that's also too, because we do have a board member that will be leaving early today. So let's go ahead and look at the minutes, approve the minutes. And I think we'd like to do the minutes to each one. If someone would like to do the minutes as of The June 10th.
Madam Chair, I would like to approve the minutes of June 10th.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second on the June 10th minutes? Would someone like-
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Fuller. Okay, any discussion? Any discussion from the public? If not, go ahead and take roll call, Carrie, on that particular minutes, please.
Director Barrett? Director Barrett, you're on mute.
Sorry, aye.
Director Eversol?
Aye.
Director Fuller?
Aye.
Director Newquist?
Aye.
Madam Chair?
Aye. So moved. Thank you very much. So we'll turn to the minutes of June 17th. And I do want to just have a clarification on item number 3. We did remove the 10,000 out of the policies and procedures. And that will be a separate item. And my question, I know that we,
and time sensitive. They must be extended before your vehicle reaches certain mileage. Again, press 1 to be connected to a voice.
Nice one.
so I want a little bit more clarification. And I think the general manager and I could look at the numbers that we have here that we looked at, which was a 7,500, 10,000 and 10,000. I like a little bit more clarification before we sent that back to legal counsel. And I think Brad and I could work on that with some language to make sure that those are the numbers and something that we would like to propose. So I would like to make a motion on the minutes, but just to have that pulled out of that amending that section 5A, I believe it's just for the amounts of 7,500, 10,000 and 10,000, which is 5B and 5C. And there's some things I'd like to have more clarification before we go to legal counsel. Would the board be okay if the general manager and I go ahead and look at that carefully before we go ahead and have legal counsel?
Madam Chair, I believe you made the motion. I would second that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead. Director Barrett, please.
as I read the minutes of June 17th, it says that the board directed legal counsel to prepare a new resolution. So maybe the work's already done?
No, it has not been done.
Okay,
I think it's something that it just needs a little bit of tweaking and clarification, and maybe because there's 3 figures, and I think that we just have to, I would like to talk to our general manager just to understand a little clarification before we go ahead and talk to legal counsel. And the general manager, Brad, and I are planning to talk when he's back from his vacation, which is, I think, July the 11th. This is our general manager. So, and we might be able to talk before then. Okay. So that's the only thing on that. Other than that, I will approve, I could approve or we could take a vote on the minutes except for that one item, but we did take the 10,000 out of the policies and procedures. Is that okay? So would someone like to make a motion? We have a motion. Do we have someone like to second it?
I seconded.
Thank you. Carrie, would you please go ahead and take roll call?
Director Barrett?
so I'm confused.
Do you want me
Are
to
we
read the
trying-
motion?
Well, I don't understand. Are we trying to change these minutes?
I think we need a little bit more clarification on that item number 3 on the amounts. We just wanted clarification where I would meet with the general manager to make sure that we are in line. And I think there was some things that that have come up since then that we just want some just clarification.
Yeah, I don't object, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I don't object to the motion or the second. I don't think we can change minutes because that's what exactly happened in the meeting.
What's this?
Maybe we could ask legal counsel, just because, hi, Mark, are you here?
I am.
Yeah, so we'd like to know how we could do this because we do need some, a little bit of clarification because there's three different, I think it was rushed a little bit with adding these three figures in, and I really like some more clarification.
Sure. The way I view these, I think Director Barrett is actually correct. This is what occurred. It didn't amend or modify the resolution. The resolution will come back to the board at some future date. And at that point, when it's back on the agenda, the board will have freedom of choice. This doesn't bind the board to making any decision. It's just what happened. That was the recommendation. And we can come back with that, or we can come back with something different. So I don't really see a need to amend revise the minutes, because in fact, I wasn't there, but I believe this is what actually happened at the meeting. Again, it just provides a recommendation to come back with a resolution. It doesn't actually amend the resolution. So I just think the motion is simply to adopt the minutes.
So therefore, Madam Chair, should I move to adopt the minutes as stated?
That's what it sounds like from legal counsel. I know that previous minutes, people have, even though it's been counted, they could actually change their vote and everything like that in minutes. If
So
they
maybe I
didn't
can
have-
offer a suggestion. An example. So let's say in this section that the board actually said, change section 5A from 20,000 to 10,000. And the minutes were drafted to say 15,000 to 7,500. You can make that change. You can say, no, that's not what occurred. And everyone can agree that you're right, that's not what occurred. But it sounds like to me, everyone believes that what's written here is what occurred. Again, I think where there may be some confusion is Director Johnson, you believe this commits the board to a particular course of action. It doesn't. This is just what was discussed. Ultimately, the only way that resolution will be changed is that resolution will be presented to the board, and the board, excuse me, has the right to vote on that revised resolution. As of today, that resolution 2021-931, has not been amended or modified. Okay, all this does is provide direction from the board as to what they suggest occur. So there's no need to, unless I hear you say that no, the number 15,000 is not right. It was actually 12,000. That's not what happened. There's no need to change the minutes.
So
Okay.
therefore, Madam Chair, I make the previous motion.
Thank you, Dana.
Okay, so we have a second, I believe.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Fuller. Go ahead and take roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye,
Thank you.
so moved. Okay, so the minutes are approved.
Madam Chair?
Or did we adopt approve the April 6, 2021 minutes? Maybe I was.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, so that's yet to be decided. Okay. thank you.
Well, they're in our packet, but they're not in the agenda.
They're on.
Therein
my-
lies a problem.
I didn't see them in our, I don't think I saw them in, were they in our packet? I don't,
Madam Chair, they are on our agenda
Oh.
for the approval of minutes.
but it should be in our packet too.
No, vice versa. They're in our packet, but they're not on the agenda, so we can't vote on them because they're not agendized.
They were in the agenda that I received, so maybe there's two agendas.
There are?
Yeah.
And
I think it was
Item-
two.
Item 3 shows
Oh,
from.
both of them,
meetings
two of them.
held
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There is
Two of
actually,
them there. I didn't
there's a
highlight
lot
that.
of minutes.
Yeah.
So April 6th
Sixth.
minutes. Uh,
10th.
So would someone like to make a motion on that?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve minutes from April 6th.
I'll second.
Director Barrett had second. Motion was by Director Newquist. Go ahead, Carrie, go ahead and take a roll call, please.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moved. So now we're going to move on to the approval of payables, item number 4. That is on your page 10 of your staff report.
Madam Chair, I just had one question on the payables.
Director Barrett, please go ahead.
All right. On the second page, FAMCon Pipe and Supply, 8,917. And also Tierra Contracting, 56,490. Is that the cost of the manholes combined, since you have frames and covers separate than the work?
Um,
It says CIP 2.
On the second page, and the amounts are where now? How much? Is that good?
8,917, 56,490.
Madam President, I believe Director Barrett is speaking about page 12 of 28 in the packet. So yes.
Yes, I see
Right.
those. Okay, so can you go ahead and, what was the question, Director Barrett, on those 2 items? I see those.
Yeah, I've never seen it separated like that. Where you had manhole frames and covers. That's usually included in, say, the Tierra Contracting. So those 2 numbers combined is for that job, I guess, CIP 2. Is that right?
General Manager, Brad, go ahead. I think they do look like they're the same project. Is that correct, General Manager?
Correct. So, Madam President, that I believe is correct. We typically have Tierra Contracting procure the manholes as part of the installation of the work. I believe in this case, though, we purchased the manholes up front and then had them install them. This sometimes occurs because of long lead time on items. I don't have my operations maintenance management manager here right this minute. But typically we want to have a small inventory on hand in the event that some of them are damaged, or we know it's going to be a long lead time to get them here so that we don't slow down projects. So.
Do we know how many manhole covers that was total?
Director Barrett, I do not know how many that is, but I'm happy to get back to the board on that.
Okay, because the total on those is 65,407. But you have a CIP 9 Romero Canyon in there also, so maybe it's separated between 2 jobs. I can't tell from this.
Yeah.
So maybe we need clarification on that. I think it's important that when we have these large numbers, that we should probably have a little bit more information. I know that this went to the Finance Committee as well, I believe. So I did see another raised hand, which was Carrie. Can you please go ahead if you're just, well, I think what we're just asking for is a clarification before this could be approved.
Yeah.
I think
Madam
that's it.
President, I misspoke. I do see Rico in the meeting. I didn't see him on my screen. So may I invite Rico to speak on behalf of that?
Good afternoon, directors. The actual
Rico, go ahead.
FAMCon item that you're speaking of, Mr. Barrett, is actually frame and covers that we order for stock. for instances when we need to replace frame covers. So it's our stock here in the plan. I believe it's 24 of them.
24, good, okay.
Yeah.
Then Rico, you have CIP 2 and CIP 9. Are those two separate projects by Tierra Contracting?
I believe so. I think Carrie can answer that question. I think that's just wrapping up the Romero Canyon sewer main extension.
And
That is correct. Romero Canyon had the final payment of $32,340.30.
do we know how many manhole covers that is for Romero?
Romero, that was the sewer main extension project.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. Lower man raised. What's the CIP 2, which is lower raised manhole covers? What is that?
That is on Hot Springs Road. That was just completed. That was the county project that we were required to do.
Okay. Do we know how many manhole covers that is?
That was 10.
10. And it looks like that's going to be around 24,000 then.
Yes.
We might need in the future on these to break them down by project a little bit better, even though it may be in the same bid. It's a little confusing to me. But that explains it all.
That might be that's a good point. I think, was this brought up in the finance committee?
No, Madam Chair, I didn't look at that second page in detail. We were going over quite a few things in the finance committee.
No. Okay. Because that's something that would be good if, unless this was changed, was there a date on this? This was on 6/18. And when did the finance committee meet? Do you have a date on that? Brad? General Manager? When was the finance committee? When did they meet? Because this was on 6/18, I believe.
Correct. I don't believe the finance committee met between our last general meeting and this meeting. I believe they met on June 1st. So
That's
this
right.
would not have been presented to the finance committee at that time.
I think we need to make some corrections here. It would be really valuable if the finance committee sees this before our board, so we could go ahead and approve it, or because I think that's why we have a finance committee. And I think it's really important. Would it be possible, and only because they haven't seen this and there is a lot of numbers, are they scheduled soon to have a finance committee?
Madam Chair, we will not have another finance committee this month, but we will have one in early July. And so I think what I'd like to do is speak with my staff on how to provide a little more detail in these comments so that it's clear, as well as we can always provide any copies of invoices necessary. I think what typically happens with Tierra is they might be working on multiple contracts for us, and they will send in 2 invoices that ultimately get paid out in one check. So these were combined into one check, but they actually were for two distinct projects. I can speak with my accounting team and see if we can split those to make it clear for the directors. And as far as the process for reviewing and approving these checks were issued on 6/18. I believe Director Eversole signed off on these. So somebody from the board of directors has reviewed these, but it sounds like we can probably provide a little bit more clarity on what these checks are being cut for.
Okay. So I
Madam
just think it's
Chair?
really important. Yes, go ahead, Director Barrett, please.
I think the easiest way for Director Eversole and myself is the staff is doing a great job of getting these packets to us early now, a week ahead of time.
Correct.
So we can review the packet. And if there's any questions, get in touch with staff before the board meeting. That'll knock
And
out.
we have and Woody, we have a meeting on the 30th at 2 o'clock.
Well, we do have our manhole meeting. Yeah, Director Eversol, so let me give a call on you if you could raise your hand or put your video on. 'Cause
Well, I am on. I don't know.
Okay, but I can't see if you raise, okay, because I'm trying to call each one individually, but I can't see you when you, if you would like to speak. So, but thank you. Definitely, I'm just suggesting that it'd be good to have the finance look at this packet. And I think it'd be a good idea before the board meeting, if there's any questions, okay?
Madam Chair, with respect to the comments made on the payables, I'd like to move that we approve the payables.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and by Director Newquist and a second by Director Barrett. So let's go ahead and take roll call. Carrie?
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
Aye.
Madam Chair.
So moved. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead with the old business and we're going to go ahead with the ad hoc. Well, we're going to talk about the fiscal year 2021-22 COLA. And we discussed this briefly in our last meeting. And also we had ad hoc meeting on this and we had requested staff to bring some information back. And I know that I didn't receive it, but at the same time, we do have it on our agenda to discuss further and or to make a motion. And we have a chart here and that's on page 17 of your staff report. If anybody like to look at it. There's 4 charts. And we met, I believe on that, the 21st. Director Fuller and I met on the 21st and reviewed this, and we did have some questions on the COLA. And the questions that we had was that if they could bring some other additional information back from not just the special districts, but also from the county, Public Works, Caltrans, just so we could get a comparison. And I think comparisons are really good. I know that they have it. So again, the COLA that they're requesting is 1.6. And last year they were able to get the 3% on their COLA. So they're asking for, excuse me, let me finish. They're asking for the 1.6 for the COLA for this fiscal year. Okay. Was there any comments or discussion?
I have a comment.
Yes. Director Eversol, please. Thank you for putting your video on too.
Well, I was amazed that I could do it.
I know. Oh, good. We love seeing you.
The last year in 2020, the Santa Barbara Sewer District had no increase. There were 80 million people unemployed. And it seems to me that it is that they got a 3% last year. This year they should not, they should not get any.
Are you stating that or making a motion or what are you?
No, well, I'll make a motion.
Is your motion? Okay.
May
Is there
I?
Well, I have a
Madam
motion on,
Director?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
excuse me. I will get back in discussion. I do have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Director Newquist, and we're going to bring that back to the board for any discussion. And I see Director Fuller. So Director Fuller, would you go ahead and please, we have a discussion on this.
Could you please restate the motion?
Yeah. Carrie, can you go ahead and please help us with that?
The motion on the table right now is that since MSD had a 3% last year, this year they should not get any. So the COLA would be 0.
you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to make a comment. At the last meeting, there was some information presented that the city of Santa Barbara did not get a COLA, but in fact, that was incorrect. At our personnel meeting, we discovered, I think they got a 2.6 COLA. Is it in our sheet here? Brad, can you help me out?
It
Madam
should-
President, may I address that comment?
I think, let me just go ahead. Let's everybody pull up page 17 on your staff report if possible. I mean, this is a board decision, and I know our general manager might have a comment, so please hold on and we'll get to you. Does everybody on page 17 on the colon, that's up on the page there? Okay. And that's I guess also too, I guess maybe it was discussed, I believe, when we discussed about the COLA, and I think that it was when we had the labor negotiators, we did kind of talk about this when we were in the process of hiring Brad. I believe, Brad, you had mentioned, unless I misunderstood, that there was no COLA at the city. And again, the date of that was probably, if I'm correct, because I also checked with Public Works, was before the COVID. So again, maybe you might have some comments on that. And let's go ahead. And I do have some other comments following that. So go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Madam President. My job is really to help make sure that we provide, factual information to help you make decisions. And so I have heard this, that, the city of Santa Barbara did not receive a COLA last year. I think it needs to be caveated with, they did receive a COLA, but it was deferred until October 10th, 2020, I believe. And they did receive a 2.5% cost of living adjustment. That is across the board for 2 of the negotiating groups. So the city of Santa Barbara and the county are both contracted labor negotiation groups. So they're collective bargaining units. And so the table that you see in front of you on your screen is a modified version of what we discussed at the Personnel Committee meeting on Monday, because we were asked to go out and get some additional information and provide additional clarity. And so if you look at the screen in front of you, there's 4 more lines at the bottom of that table that was provided in the packet. And it shows that the county and the city, both the treatment and patrol collective bargaining unit, as well as the general unit, which covers administrative staff, as well as streets maintenance workers, they all received 2.5% in the last year. I do want to make it clear, though, that this is not comparing apples to apples to our district, because they operate on a labor contract basis, which means their contracts may extend more than a fiscal year. So often the city's labor contracts will go 18 months before they renegotiate a new one. They do not link it up to the beginning of the fiscal year. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, because there has been a lot of this I've heard, or maybe things in the past were discussed and it wasn't as clear. My hope is that the chart in front of you clarifies that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, General Manager. I do have some information too, and it's also, you could do further research. I went back into about 12 years. I know that in January 2010, the COLA was 0. 2011, it was 0. 2016, it was 0. In January, it was and probably later, it was 1.6. And if it was a standard across the board at 1.6 based on the state, then our district got 3% instead of 1.6 based on the COLA, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So again, that was over the amount of the standard that I had seen. And this year they're saying 1.3. So if you had 1.6 and 1.3, that is 2.9, which is what they got last year. Mr. Eversole did bring that up where they did get the 3% last year. So if you add those two of January 2020, what the state level is 1.6 and 1.3, it is approximately the, actually they're asking, the state is actually 2.9 for those 2 years together. So I know that Santa Barbara, that's our district is probably one of the highest paid special districts of California. The cost of living is expensive in Santa Barbara. I think Montecito is probably more expensive, but the city of Santa Barbara, county of Santa Barbara is expensive as well. I did some research. New York is actually quite a bit more expensive than Santa Barbara. San Francisco is double than Santa Barbara. Mountain View is higher. The city of Santa Monica is higher than Santa Barbara. Boston is higher than Santa Barbara. Massachusetts is higher than Santa Barbara. Marina del Rey is higher. So we are in a higher range. But again, some of these, we are the highest paid special district. So it's kind of like a fine line. The UC system during the COLA period let go over 50% of their employees and teachers. I think there's some other statistics out there that last year, a lot of people lost their jobs and we were still able to, the district took 3% where other districts did not. So I'm torn on this. We do have a motion. Was there any more discussion?
I
Madam
have
President?
discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that this is a board decision. Hold on. Who just mentioned, was that Eversole or?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Director
Fuller
Eversole.
was after me.
Yes, yes, Director Eversole.
The board got a 3% cost of living on 7/1/20. We're basically saying that, they got a cost of living increase of 3%, as well at that point. Unfortunately, I hate to be the bad guy, but it's speaking about reality. I mean, I think we have to wait for another year and we'll address it at that point.
Thank you, Director Eversole. So we have a motion and a second. Again, okay, Director Fuller and let's try to get all our thoughts at once, but thank you. Director Fuller, please, one more time.
Thank you. What I was initially going to state with Brad, along with Brad's charts, is originally we were only comparing ourselves to other similar districts that were in our area, but now it seems we're comparing ourselves to the state of California or the nation as a whole. Because I mean, the chart that I looked at, we were directly in line with everything else in our vicinity. So I just wanted to be clear, we're basing it now on a wider net. Is that what's happening?
Well, those are the questions I asked and I didn't get any feedback on that. So yes, because the state is the one that actually sets the standards as far as the COLA, not our special districts, are actually the state. So that's why I asked about that. And that's when I did my own research. And then I went back to, I believe, 12 years. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 2010 was 0, 2011 and 2016 was 0. So again, and last year, the state, we approved 1.6 and we were able to do 3%. So we actually gave double that amount last year to our district based on the state. So that's some research that I have come up with. So, and I did request that information, Director Fuller. So we do have a motion. I'm sorry, Brad, we have to make a decision based on our board. And I know that last time when we did discuss this, I guess the past board, from what I've researched and went back to minutes and everything, you could look at the minutes, General Manager, is that when they discussed the COLA, it was really the board discussion. And I really value your opinion, which I had you bring up this new chart. So we do have a motion and a second. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Fuller. I'm sorry, Director Barrett,
Okay.
because you have not spoken.
This is a tough decision. Some of the employees in the district have maxed out on those 5 levels they can advance through, and I get that. I totally get what Director Eversole is mentioning 3% last year during a really tough time in our country. One of the things, this doesn't soften the blow, but one thing to look at possibly is that I didn't know that our district also got Social Security. And you see that in previous, salary year was $126,000 obligation to the district. I thought all they got was the CalPERS pension. So they do get both those things at our district. If you just take a look at the numbers, I don't think that proposed budget there for salaries at $1,939,000 probably includes the new general manager's salary. So we'll just round that off to 2.1 million going to the previous year. But based on that number, if you did a 1.6, it increases salaries alone about almost 34,000. But that's not the only thing that increases. The pension benefit increases, the Social Security increases. It's an across the board thing. So it is a big decision by the district and the board. And it's a tough one. Getting the 3% last year during tough times for lots of people, I think was wonderful that the district did that. But those are just a few things that I wanted to bring up, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a tough decision. I think we're, torn with this. Again, we do have, and I know we have to separate everything, but we do have so many new capital improvement projects. We have new projects that we're looking at, the overall picture. So there's so much revenue that we actually bring in. There's that chart. If you go back to the page 17, is that what's up there? It looks like a minus 94, but that's because we had an interim general manager, 2 of them for 7 months, and we didn't have a general manager. But now we do have a general manager, and they're proposing also to hire 1 other employee. And if you add those numbers, we'll be over the 94,000 on top of that. So that's something else that we have to look at as well. So I think that if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and take a vote. Carrie, please.
So the motion as it stands right now is that there is no COLA for MSD for fiscal year 21-22.
Go ahead and take roll call, please.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Nay.
Director Newquist,
Aye.
Madam President.
It'd be hard. I think I didn't get all the information that I requested. I'm going to abstain. It was a really hard decision. I really like working with the staff. And again, it was just a really hard decision. So again, motion for the COLA is denied. We have 3 votes no, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. Okay. Thank you.
I
So
believe there was 3 votes positive.
3 votes for positive for the,
For 0 increase.
correct. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is there any other comment from the public? Thank you. So we're going on to the budget, which is a fiscal year 2021-22 budget. That's on page 18. If everybody could turn to page 18, please. On your staff report. And this is quite extensive. So I know the finance committee, have they met several times on this? I believe so.
Madam President, if I may, I can help with the timeline again.
Thank you. Brad, please go ahead. Appreciate it.
Yes, so I'm happy to be here today to present for the second time to the whole board the budget and answer a few questions that came up at last week's meeting. But to answer your first question, yes, the Finance Committee did review this at the June 1st Finance Committee meeting, and they had 2 modifications that were incorporated into the budget that you were all presented last week. Since our meeting last week, staff have not made any additional changes because we were waiting on the cost of living adjustment number in order to put that into the budget. So we now have that number, and that can lock in our salaries and benefits for this upcoming fiscal year, and that will be 0%. The other change that we were requested to make from last week's budget to this week was increasing the customer relations expense from $10,000 to $35,000 per Director Johnson's request. Those are the only 2 changes we've made, but I want to address a few of the maybe clarifications that were needed from last week's budget. So Carrie, if you will go back to the revenue line. So I'd like to make sure, the board understands how I believe I see my role. One of my main duties is to prepare and present a balanced budget so that we are not overspending, but we are meeting the district's needs and providing the service to the community that regulatorily we are required to do. And so Betsy and I pulled together some numbers as far as what is our estimated revenue for fiscal year 21-22. That is the number you see in front of you. That is $6.51 million. The proposed budget as it stands in front of you is $4.8 million. That means that we have a positive net operating revenue or net operating balance. So with regard to also the bond indenture requirement of 110% the total debt service payment, which is $290,000, we are good. We have enough money to carry the operating budget forward with the numbers that you see ahead of you. And it only gets more positive because of the 0% cost of living adjustment. So Carrie and I, can show you those numbers today in the spreadsheet that's used for the budget, but I wanted to make sure it's clear that nowhere in my proposed budget are we using reserves for operating expenses or capital expenses. So scrolling down, if you'd like me to stop there, Madam President, I'm happy to stop and take any questions on the revenue line and talk about how it impacts our operating budget before we go to the next.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, we do have probably some other board members. Go ahead, Director Barrett, please.
This is an interesting thing in the operating revenue. of $6,519,750. That is essentially from the ratepayers and the rates they pay annually. It does not include over 600,000 that the district receives for 1/2 of 1% of all property taxes. That can't be classified as an operating revenue entry in the accounting. So I just want to make note to the board that that number is really 7.1 million. If you include, I know you can't put in the numbers. I'm not an accountant. I don't understand the reasoning why, but the district does receive about 600,000 a year now from the 1/2 of 1% property tax. Thank you.
Director Barrett. Was there any other comments from the board? Okay. So I did ask a question. Is anyone else have a question? Okay. I did ask a question about the Gatsby 34, and there is some new guidelines and requests. I don't know if you had seen them, General Manager, about when you do a fiscal budget. And this is really for the board, because I know that the other districts start 6 months in advance on their budget. And so we have enough time. This is like the second time I've seen this budget. So again, there was some other things that was brought up, was that it should, and actually even have an introduction of some of what are the financial goals. I don't even know what the financial goals, I know you had stated that, but that should be actually clarified. And how do we achieve these projects? And then also another one is, and you and I talked about this, but I haven't seen it, General Manager, was that we do need a timeline when these projects would possibly take place approximately. So that is also in the Gatsby 34 disclosures of what should be defined, because a budget has some legal significance and accountability, liability issues. So I think that, and that's why it would have been wonderful if we had a little bit more information. So again, I know you have this budget that you, I guess, Betsy, you had put together, but it just that in the future, it'd be nice to have a little bit more time to go through this with some other backup information and some timelines, because here we are looking at this, you know, operation budget, but when do we spend that money? I have no idea. And we have to answer to our ratepayers. So is there any way we could get some timeline on any of this information, General Manager?
Well, first I'd like to address, I absolutely agree with you that in an ideal world, we would be starting this earlier than we are currently right now. Given this is my 9th day here at the district, and my team started this work a few months ago with Interim General Manager Wong, I'm pretty happy with where the budget is right now as far as how clearly it is organized. You're absolutely right. Moving forward on future years, I'd love to highlight when we would expect to see some of the capital costs expected in the future year. But to address your timeline on when the operating budget would be expended, that's throughout the year. This is to support, obviously a major line item in there is the salaries and benefits. So that's spent throughout the year. But some of the other items in there with material goods and other equipment, you know, purchases, that happens as needed. And so the budget as it's prepared, we've allocated money in order to be prepared to start the beginning of the fiscal year. And throughout the year, we would be spending that operating cash. The other, I was going to save it until after we got through the capital, but I did want to address the GASB request that was made last week. We did speak with our account auditor who has reviewed all of our financials, and she has confirmed that all of our financials and our budget meet GASB principles. As you'll note here on the operating budget overview, our Montecito Sanitary District budget meets all GASB regulatory guidance for proprietary enterprise funds. We operate as an enterprise fund because that is the type of accounting structure that makes the most sense for a sanitation district. It's the same thing for a water district. The city of Santa Barbara's water and wastewater groups also follow a very similar operation, and therefore they also follow an enterprise fund. And so those line items that you see in the budget on the operating lines, those are flexible because you can't really predict exactly what your costs are going to be for the next year. And it's different than an appropriated fund, which means you cannot go over those line items. You would require some form of approval. So speaking with our auditor, that's kind of the boiled down version of what she confirmed. We are doing everything we are supposed to be doing from a budgetary standpoint. But like I said, I fully agree with you that it would be great to highlight to the board, especially on the capital projects, when we would expect to see some of the expenditures occur in the upcoming fiscal year. So
I understand that this is an enterprise, what you're working on. Again, I think that I've looked at other budgets from other districts. It's quite more extensive with more backup information so that our board could make a really solid decision on where to go. Because I think we have several areas, and you have capital improvement projects, you have operations, you have, I mean, there's different things, and you only have so much revenue that comes in. And I think if you add everything up, it's over the revenue amount. So how are you going to pay for these items? And I see Director Newquist, please.
After looking at the budget and with the adoption of COLA, I'd like to move that we approve the standing budget as it is.
I second that, please.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Director Barrett, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I brought this up during the Finance Committee meeting. Special districts, as we know, are run differently than private enterprise. But it seems strange to me to put into the budget, sewer main extension projects like Lilac and Ashley Road when they haven't even been approved by the board and we don't have final bids. We don't know we have 50% participation. It's just up in the air. So I know work has been done on the projects, obviously, surveying and some bids, that sort of thing, but I don't know why they're worked into a budget before they're approved.
Or even brought to our board. Yeah, I think there's some really questions there that Director Barrett, and that's again, the liability, that's accountability, that's the transparency that has to be brought to the board. I'm sorry to bring this up, but it is so important that we get this budget right. Unfortunately, I see some areas that we don't have bids yet. And I think that if we could maybe look at this differently, and you have your capital improvement projects that do have bids, and maybe we could separate those and get those looked at and approved. Maybe General Manager, maybe you could help me with this and look at that part. I think there might be some way that we could get through this. And I know we have a motion and a second, but again, there's quite a bit of discussion here. So maybe General Manager, would you help us with this, please?
absolutely.
And see if that could be broken down to possibly what you received that was presented to the board with the bids and the contracts, so we could go ahead and help you with this. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help explain a little bit more about what went into preparing the cost estimates and where we're at on these projects. First off, I want to state that this is, again, consistent with what I have seen other places as far as looking at next fiscal year and establishing a capital budget in order to facilitate the mission of the district. So what I want to make clear, though, is that 2 of these 3 major projects here are regulatory compliance support projects. That's your annual projects and your what you see in front of you, the new projects or the facilities projects. The sewer main extension project is an area where it's really up to the board as far as what level of service do they want to extend out to the community. You'll see there that the bulk of the cost for next fiscal year has to do with sewer main extensions. So that's going to be up to the board at whatever time we come back to discuss that. In fact, we're discussing Lilac and Oak Grove today, and that ultimately would either encumber the funds for future if we decide to issue contracts, or that money is still a placeholder depending on what the board wants to do with that project. So again, I stated this, I believe, last week. By approving a budget today does not mean that we are going down a road for those projects. The board is going to have to award a contract if they want to proceed with that project. And so, Carrie, if you don't mind going back up to the higher slide. The reason I presented the capital improvement budget overview in this way was, again, the annual projects at $675,000. That's establishing a budget for emergency sewer main replacements, manhole frame and cover adjustments, the things we have to do because we're told we have to do it in order to safely convey wastewater to the treatment plant. The facility projects are ones that support regulatory compliance here at the treatment plant. And so that's the electrical rehabilitation project that we're still finalizing scope of work. As soon as we finalize the scope of work and we get the specs pulled together, we'll have a much better idea on what exactly that cost is going to be. And it really is a function of a bidding environment. The roof repair here at the treatment plant, that is another one that goes into that. And we are moving forward on that. That's our highest priority because we'd like to see the board back in session here as soon as we can. And that obviously is a function of that room. However, that last line you'll see there at 2.5, almost 2.6 million, that is the net expense to the district if we only get 50% homeowner participation. Our accounting principles tell us that we have to put a number to something we want to do next year, but obviously we don't know until we get commitment from the board to move forward with the project. We get commitment from homeowners to actually contribute to the project. We don't have that, but Director Barrett's absolutely right that we have gotten these projects, or at least the Lilac Oak Grove project, to a point where we have bid it. So there are district costs that were recognized in fiscal year 2021. But the bulk of the contract, the bulk of the project costs that we're budgeting for next year, we're trying to estimate what that will be. That wouldn't get recognized until FY 21-22. So we need to put that cost into next year's budget. And so how this all balances out as far as what is the financial position of the district right now, available capital as of the end of this fiscal year is 7.9 million. If the district decides to move forward with those projects that are outlined, assuming that down the road it's approved by the board, with 50% homeowner contribution, our total capital cost next year would only be 4.4 million, meaning we would have a remaining capital balance of roughly $3,497,646. So none of this is about taking reserves. It's not about the revenue coming in as far as the operating revenue. That is reserved, and according to our auditor, we have to use that for the operating expenses. We can't commingle those funds. That is a GASB principle. And so I want to make sure I hope that's helpful and clear that we have three distinct funds that we cannot commingle without board approval of moving money around.
Thank you, Brad. I have a question. Does a district do the comprehensive financial annual that's required by the state. Does that go back to the state? Now, that date is when? Do you know when that date is due?
That date I do not have available right now, but I'm happy to report to the board. We did
Okay,
review that with our auditor, and she confirmed that even before I got here and as Betsy came on board, that we're meeting all of our requirements for state certification. We also have to certify with the county and with our bond, with our bank, BNY. So that we have to file with a few different agencies just to make sure that we are meeting all of our compliance.
Okay, so the date that it's required is September 30th. So you may want to know that, okay? Which is a requirement. So you do have some time. What my feeling again is getting us the right backup materials. We do, and I mentioned them earlier with the Gatsby, what they asked for. It just will be so much helpful because we want to get there. We want to have projects move forward. It's not we don't. And I know that you worked hard on this, but this budget to me looks, you have estimates, you have summary, you have, it's just not really the format of financial, what you would be presenting really to the state. And we just have an accountability. We have liability issues. So I just really want to make sure that we're protected with this if we go ahead and move forward. Is there any amendment on the motion? Go ahead, Director Barrett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So essentially by this vote, we're talking about the 4.8 million budget as well as the capital improvement budget. It's all wrapped into one under the heading of budget. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
Yep.
Looking on the capital improvement project budget, if you look at that last line item, recycle water fund, I think that headings should be corrected. It says estimated project cost. There's no project for 1,190,000. I believe that's the amount of money that we have in there. We dedicated 2 years of the 0.5% property tax. So I believe that's the money on hand is 1,190,000.
Okay, thank you, Director Barrett. So,
And then the 75,000, do we have an idea? I know we don't, it's like General Manager Rare said in our last meeting, we approve this budget. It doesn't mean we have to spend the money. Things come back to the board, we vote, bids are accepted, things are done. So just because we approve the budget does not mean we approve the project. I get that. So in that light, I guess this is all considered one budget. And I see, let me ask General Manager Rare one more question here. If you go back up there to the 7.9 million, the fund that we're pulling out of for these things, that 7.9 million, Brad, that's not any depreciation money in there, is it? This collected from the ratepayers for depreciation of the system?
Correct. That does not include this year's depreciation that would go in. This is a conservative number.
No, I meant the 7.9 million. Is any of that money that's in the 7.9 million allocated towards depreciated assets?
The 7.9 million includes depreciation from previous years. It does not include this year's depreciation from assets. So therefore, we do that at the end of the year. There would be another allocation of money that goes into that 7.9 to make it bigger. That comes from our auditor and our tax accountant at that time. So this number is purely based on what we have essentially from previous year's depreciation sitting in the account right now with our current cash.
So that's always confused me. That's for depreciation, like when Rick Caruso finished the Miramar, spent $6.2 million on that lift station. He essentially deeded it to the district, and we immediately started depreciating it. These are the 76 miles of sewer main that we have being depreciated, all the equipment at the plant. So you're doing sewer main extensions, which is a new capital improvement project with money that's supposed to be spent on things that are depreciated and need to be replaced in the future. Is that how districts run with their money? It seems like you're using money that's allocated for one thing to do another, in my mind.
Correct. I think, thank you for explaining how that works. The remember, with the sewer main extension projects, the district would not have any cost if there was 100% participation. Herein lies the discussion as far as how much of the district's capital account should be allocated towards sewer main extensions. This is a level of service the board needs to discuss and decide on for extending the sewer system out to more houses, and how much of the capital money do we want to use for new assets versus replacing the existing assets that we have. So thank you, Director Barrett. I think that was a great introduction into kind of that element. If the board, for whatever reason, decided that no sewer main extensions were necessary next year, that $7.9 million would go to essentially covering the annual projects, the facilities project, and the one sewer main extension that the one sewer main replacement. I want to be careful that I'm not saying extension. Sewer main replacement that's necessary, and that's the Caltrans 101 relocation of the sewer main. Those would be the only three projects or three areas that we'd be focusing capital money on, which you're absolutely right, is truly just straight depreciation of assets that are aged out. So.
Okay.
I have another comment. And again, I know this might come up in the next project. I think what's kind of confusing to me is you have this budget and you have several components to it, or phases, but you have this deferred payments on all these septic tanks. In a way, we're not getting revenue from that. So that is being deferred. And again, here we are spending money. And I think that has to be addressed. How that's going to be resolved. And again, I think that's going to be in one of our projects coming up. So again, I just think that that's why in a budget, it's kind of nice to just make sure that we look at everything. And I really, to me, this is, it's not really a complete budget. I feel like this is more of a, and I know you worked hard on this, or whoever worked hard on this, but it's more of a, you got summary, you got estimate. I don't have any backup. So it's something that we need to get really resolved. So I'm torn on this. I hear Director Newquist.
Yeah, Madam Chair, because of the comments and the possible refinements and changes to the budget, I'd like to retract my motion. Move this to another agenda.
We do have a deadline. We do have that September deadline, which is the one that you have to report back to the state because they will post it online, I think in November as well.
President,
has the auditor, I mean, has your accountant, again, 6 months ago, they should have been working with you on this. And it to me is kind of lacking some final numbers or some things that we might need. And again, I want to get this through, but I just feel like there's some missing components. So
Madam
we do have a
President,
meeting coming up in August, we do have a manhole meeting on the 30th. Oh, yes. Before I go ahead and continue, I will go ahead and Director Barrett, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. And General Manager Rare had his hand raised also.
Saw that.
And I don't want to be like the government and not get this budget done before end of fiscal, which is June 30.
No, I
I
heard
think
that
the
was,
budget's been prepared. And like General Manager Rare said in our last meeting, we're not approving these projects. They don't get the stamp of approval. This is essentially a budgeting factor. So I can see where staff is coming from and wanting to take into account all the different things that the district's working on and present those in the budget. I totally get that. I'm not adverse with that thought. I'm not an accountant, but I'm not adverse with that thought. I think today we need to make whatever amendments we want to, but I think we need to approve the budget today somehow, some way, if possible.
well,
Thank
I
you.
heard that the final budget is July 15th. I think that was brought up to us on the last meeting when I asked that specific question, and it was July 15th. Maybe bring this back to the general manager. Is there any way this could be tweaked a little bit more and brought back on the 30th? Because I think we're really close, but I still think there's some things that could be defined with some of the things that several board members have brought up. So again, I could add this on the 30th, which is next week, and then you will have it, if it's tweaked, approved on the 30th, if we could get some additional information. And that's what I would like to see. And
Madam
unfortunately, it's one of those things that a budget, and again, I think you had 2 interim general managers, so I don't think you could blame this on Tony Wong from what I'm hearing, what you said, because Tony Wong was not part of this or responsible for this, okay? And I find that disturbing. Okay. Yes, Barrett, Director Barrett, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I'd just like to hear, since he has been involved with the district for so long as interim general manager Tony Wong, I'd like to hear his thoughts on this budget and if it looks like it's ready for approval, please, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Tony, are you there, please?
Yes, hi, Madam President, member of the Board of Directors. I'd be glad to add my input in here, but I think that General Manager Brad has given very good explanation. Of course, that we couldn't get started earlier in March or something like that because we were so busy with that. But I would say that in the motion, if you want to make, is place the condition of approval as part of the approval, as General Manager Brett has stated that. I think that would be very acceptable with the condition of approval in the budget. I'm not so sure if you come back on the 30th that you are going to resolve some of those hard issues. So maybe in the midterm year can revisit the budget update, you know. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Interim General Manager. Again, I know you didn't have time to really look at this, and actually this was back in December when you weren't even hired. So, I mean, that was been 6 months or 7 months ago. So I just think there's liability issues and accountability issues that we have to carefully look at. I think that I would like to see some area, even though I know that we will approve certain things when they come up, when there's projects. But again, Brad, you and I talked about that you were going to help with some dates, and I think there was going to be like a quarterly, half year, you know, different times, what actually you could break it down, what will be in those areas. And that to me is where I'm looking at. And I think that's really important. I think we do have an obligation to our ratepayers to really understand this. And again, I think it's something that I would like to see done in more detail. And I appreciate what staff has done, financial, but I still think there's some lacking information. And I think if we come back on the 30th, if we have those, we probably will definitely get this moving forward. That's what I'm requesting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Director Duquesne.
with that request, if in fact we're going to revisit this on the 30th, was it accepted that I retract my motion?
Yes,
Then you need to retract the second also.
okay, so we had to retract the motion and there was a second. So do we take roll call? Mark, maybe legal counsel could help me with this. Because
No.
we're retracting a motion here.
No, under Rosenberg's rules of order, which are governing you, it's fine for the maker of the motion to simply retract the motion.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through some arduous process, so.
Thank you.
Can
Thank you, legal counsel.
I have one other question? Someone indicated that the health and safety code provides that the district budget doesn't need to be adopted until September. Can someone offer me the section of the health and safety code that provides that? We're a July 1, June 30th.
That is for the state. The
What-
state has to do, is required of that.
No, the
Because
question
they will
is,
post that, I believe in November on the state website.
the question is under our enabling act. Someone, I think it was you, Director Johnson, who indicated that the district isn't required to adopt a budget until September. And I just want to find
No,
the
no, I
second.
didn't say that. I don't believe I meant that if that's what you thought.
Okay.
I'm not
because
saying
this is-
adopting.
This item is on, this is our last meeting of June 2021, correct?
Yeah, no, we have another meeting on the 30th.
Oh, okay. So the plan is to adopt it on June 30th.
Correct.
Or, okay. Okay, so we'll adopt this prior to July 1.
Right.
Or potentially.
That's our goal.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead, Brad, please.
may I ask a little bit more clarification on what backup information you're seeking so that I can make sure that my team and I prepare as much information as the board wishes?
Okay, so one thing I'm requesting to help understand this is that you and I had talked about this, and you talked about how you could break up some of the timing on a calendar, what will be in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. You had mentioned that to me. You actually suggested it. So I'm just bringing that back to you. Also to, I think we have a responsibility of setting boundaries, you know, to achieve these goals. So that way we'll help to achieve these goals. So I think there's some disclosures. You know, you have financial goals. I mean, you know, we have to answer to this. I think there's revenue. You know, do we have enough revenue? You and I talked about possibly looking at grants, and I haven't heard that today. I haven't looked at any of that. So I mean, if we're going over, you say we're not going over, but the overall cost of everything is more than what the revenue is, I think, is bringing. So again, I want to know how we're going to get all these projects taken care of. So maybe, I know you and I talked about possible grants or possible some other things. So we're going to have to really look at some of this, you know, so it's important.
So may I just ask clarification on, you know, the schedule? Everybody kind of understands schedules be a little bit different. First off, I want to be clear here that the operating budget doesn't really have a schedule of expenses. They're going, those accounts are flexible, and they're going to be spent as needed by the district. We don't spend just because the account says $30,000. We don't spend that automatically, and it's not averaged out through the whole year. It really is spent when it's needed. The capital account is where I was speaking about developing a schedule, and I think it's great that we would have a schedule to help present that to the board. To what degree would you like the schedule as far as quarterly, monthly, half annually? What would be the wish
had
of the board?
actually suggested, I believe, quarterly, and you suggested it to me.
All right, perfect. I can make sure that my team supports that. The other discussion on grants is, that is a potential source of revenue. It's not guaranteed. Grants right now are extremely competitive, and so my staff and I have developed some idea as far as what grants we may be able to go after. As far as projecting when that revenue would hit our accounts, that to me, this budget is prepared assuming there isn't any contribution from grants. In the event that we are eligible for grants for some of these projects, the electrical one is one that comes to mind, and I think it would be a great project because of the potential electrical efficiencies that we can get out of replacing our aging equipment. I could do my best at putting in some description of the grants that I think that might be out there. I can't make any promises though that I will have that for next week. And I just want to make sure that that's clear now that I may not be able to have other sources of revenue identified by next Wednesday.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Director Duquesne.
I would
It's
like
almost
to
3:30.
request permission to leave the meeting for a very important meeting, watching the Chicago Cubs and LA Dodgers at Dodger Stadium.
Okay.
Amen.
Enjoy.
Amen.
Thank you.
May the
thank you.
Cubs win.
Thank you. And it's 3:30. You could go ahead and thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Director Barrett, please.
I understand your desire for more detail. I've also heard some good suggestions from interim General Manager Tony Wong as well as General Manager Rare. The board could vote on the current budget today as it is,
Yep.
with going forward into the next fiscal, which is in 7 days, and revisiting the budget in next year's fiscal. Or you could put a requirement for whatever details you want, and then we can look at those, in next year's fiscal. I don't know the type of detail that you want. But if it's real specific, it's going to be difficult for staff to prepare that in 6 days, I think, 2 of those days being a weekend.
This was actually talked, when I talked to General Manager, this was a request that he said that he would look at this and actually bring this back to us. So that's what would like to actually have. And I think it's important. I want to see, and I think we have an obligation to our ratepayers to see where these projects are going to happen or when this is going to be spent. And again, I think we have the 30th. I think it would take a short period of time to look at, probably it's a 1-page document of what's going to happen in the fiscal year in certain different areas.
Madam Chair, if we're talking about these capital improvement project budget items, those are the big ones. You got $5 million staring in the face right here just on Lilac and Ashley Road. Staff is going to have to go out and secure some type of participation number, bring it back to the board. What I'm trying to say is that it's hard to project which quarter that will be accomplished, which quarter construction will start after the bidding process. There's so many unknowns.
And
in
there's
trying to,
unknowns that I don't have the information to make a concrete vote. I would like to, but I feel that there's some missing parts to this. Unfortunately, you know, I see this more as, yeah, I just don't see enough backup information. I'm just asking if they could just break this up to see where we stand on the different quarterly areas of the money. There's a lot of money here that they're talking about. You have a lot of projects that we have that don't even have bids yet. So again, you're the one that brought that up. You brought about the electrical panel, you brought about all these other things that are in changes. And I think, again, I'm listening to you as well, and then it doesn't make sense to me.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please, Director Fuller.
may I make a motion that we vote on the budget as is?
And I'm also requested to have this on the 30th. So I like to make my motion, which I did make a motion, basically.
Oh.
So.
Madam Chair, quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
If,
Is that Director Barrett? Yeah.
yes, on the sewer main extension project, which is total 6.25 million, if those were removed from the budget, and this is a question also for General Manager Rare, if those are removed from the budget and we keep pursuing those projects and they come to fruition next year, next fiscal, but they're not budgeted for, what happens at that point?
Thank you, Director Barrett. That's a great question. When you say if we can continue pursuing it, we would be including it on the following year's budget. So if let's say Lilac and Oak Grove, the board does not wish to proceed with it at this time, and that portion of that few $1 million that you just brought up, we revisit this at the beginning or at the end of this time next year. And if the board does want to move forward at that point, we're putting it back in next year's budget as well. So again, it can be removed from this year's budget. That'll help my team have clear direction on where we'd like to move. But again, the order of items today, you know, right now it's being proposed in the budget. If, from my understanding, if there's a director that wants to make a motion and make any recommendations for this budget, this is the time right now to help us, you know, finalize the budget. Carrie can bring up the full working spreadsheet and we can show you what those numbers are if you'd like to see the net result of that motion and that recommendation. So, but you're absolutely right, Director Barrett. It could go in the next year's budget should the board wish to pursue it at that time.
Okay. So they could be added even if they're not in the budget for next year.
Sure.
Is that right?
Correct. The assumption is right now that those projects, we were planning on going forward with them because of the interest from the community and from the interest from the board to get us to the point of final design and bidding. However, if we don't proceed with those, we still have a final design that we would just go out to bid for in the future. And we could include it in the fiscal year 22-23 budget, should the board wish to do that.
For the Lilac project.
That's just one example, yes.
Yeah.
Any of the capital projects that have not had an awarded contract, those would be projects that could be pushed to a future fiscal year.
And is there a possibility, maybe you could help us with that? If there's a project, like you said, the roofing that should have been done a couple years ago, because now there's more damages probably to the roof, which I don't understand. If something is damaged, it should have been taken care of sooner than later. But if that has been added to this budget, and we don't have bids, can you come back and ask the board to review that and as a special project?
Madam President, absolutely. So thank you, Carrie, for bringing up kind of our estimated costs for the upcoming capital projects. If you look at, I believe the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, right now that project is described as the roof for the administrative building, which also includes our operations right here next to my office, and the boardroom building. Should the, right now we're in the process of finalizing specifications to go out to bid for that. Again, the money for the project would be coming from the FY 21-22 budget. We are estimating somewhere around $65,000 right now. So that puts us over our threshold where we will be coming back to the board for approval of that contract, and we'll be presenting what went into that bid. So that would be a project that, again, is one of my highest priorities because I'm aware of the urgency of this. But that's going to come back to the board for final approval of the contract. The next,
So that can be brought, that could be a separate project that you could bring back. And I think that to me is something that I would be open to look at that once you have the final bids. And again, that could be done in phases too, because the conference room is the one that actually had the damages that should have been repaired a long time ago. So, I mean, the flashing would have been easy. Now it's more damages than necessary, unnecessary. So, okay. Okay, so I think if it's okay with the board, and again, I like to see this brought back on the 30th. If you could please bring back at least some of the dates where I could see and we could answer to the ratepayers when these projects are going to happen approximately.
So just for my clarification, is that the motion, President Johnson?
Is there a second? Okay, and I've got to leave this meeting, so I will let Director Barrett take over. Okay, I have a important emergency that I've got to take care of. Thank you very much.
Brad, I just had a question. I didn't fully understand the motion, and did somebody second it?
I heard the motion, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I heard the motion to defer the discussion and approval of this budget to the June 30th special meeting. That was what I heard. Is that an accurate statement? Can anybody confirm that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
It has not been seconded. I mean,
Can I make a motion that we vote on it as is right now? Can I get a second on that? We can do it with 3 of us.
I understand that, but that was Director Fuller talking. I guess I have to go with protocol now. Sorry, Gary.
No problem.
We know where Madam Chair stands on this issue. She'd like to bring it back to the 30th. I would like to get it done today. I'm not sure exactly the detail that she's requiring. Brad, did you understand what she needs?
Thank you, Director Barrett. We had discussed as far as some of the process improvements with coordinating and communicating the work as pulling together sort of a cash flow for our capital projects. So what quarter would we be attempting to do the work? And ultimately, what do we expect the cost to be recognized in that quarter? That's how I understood it. That's why I was seeking additional clarification today. I'm happy to give the board whatever level of detail they would like. But I think today, Director Barrett, you have done a fantastic job of explaining, where we're at and the controls that the board still has. Passing a budget does not take away the controls. It still allows the board of directors to have controls over the account. And as you can see by the capital counts or the capital projects here, there's only one project on here that falls under even 15,000. So all the contracts are going to come back to the board for discussion and approval. down the road.
And you
for
can
that.
get us that information, right? You can get us whatever information Director Johnson is asking later. But we can still pass this budget right now.
Correct.
I make a motion, we pass the budget as stated. Second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Oh, goodness.
No, I just open for
You,
discussion.
you guys are really gonna start something up here. Nothing like putting your interim president on the hot seat here. So we have a motion to accept the budget as is from Director Fuller. We have a second by Director Eversole. I should at this time, I guess, take it back to the public for any comment. Carrie, if there's anybody with a hand up that wants to talk.
Let me check. I do not see any hands raised from the public. We do have still two members of the public. If they wish to speak, you can unmute yourself and turn on your video.
Okay.
I do not see any at this time.
Okay, thank you. So bring it back to the board for discussion for the final vote. So we understand the motion. We understand the second. I'm pushing to get this budget approved. I think the big things that Director Johnson had problems with were these huge capital improvement projects, sewer main extensions. I don't see taking them out of the budget and then we're still pursuing those programs to see if people participate is the correct thing to do either. My thought is this detail that Director Johnson wants before approving the budget, hopefully those can be brought on the 30th meeting, June 30th. What do you think, General Manager Rare?
Director Barrett, absolutely. I'm happy to bring more information on the 30th. Right now, the only two agendized items are the manhole the manhole adjustment bid and award a contract, and the notice of completion for Romero Canyon. So from a procedural standpoint, I think there would have to be a discussion on adding something to that agenda, but staff and I are capable of bringing whatever information the board would like at that meeting, as long as it's agendized.
Okay, one other thing to add to her list of requirements, if you could give us a little bit of detail about the electrical, because that's another big item. It's almost $1 million. If you could just give us some detail on that. You know, and I know everything's moving until you bid it out. I understand all that. I just like to see if it includes, once you've upgraded that panel, you're going to also have to upgrade the motors.
Sure.
Because they don't even have neutrals. So
Right.
does that include all those motors too? That's just kind of, you know, little detail I'd like to see, please, sir. That's all the discussion I have. Director Fuller?
If I may, I think, I don't even know if they've really gotten a scope on that electrical panel yet. So I think that's kind of a separate, I don't know if we need that kind of detail for the overall budget, since it is a proposed, these are all proposed amounts. So I'm really hoping that we can give the staff some breathing room, and I'm hopeful we can just pass this, and these details will be sorted out at a later date.
Good point. I'm
agree.
in favor of that,
Yep.
because approving the budget doesn't approve the project. It has to be brought back to the board anyway.
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
I say we vote.
Okay. Don, did you have everything you want to add?
No.
Okay. Carrie, would you go ahead and put it to vote, please,
I'm
ma'am?
sorry to interrupt, but
Oh.
before you vote, I
Oh.
just wanted to let the three members that are still present, which is a quorum, make you all aware that it'll take all three of you voting in the affirmative to adopt the motion. Just
Yeah.
two of the three will not adopt. the
We
motion.
understand that.
Good. Okay, thank you.
So the motion is to approve the budget as is, with motion by Director Fuller, second by Director Eversol. Now the roll call, Director Barrett.
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
with Newquist and Johnson absent.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn. We're gonna go party now.
Thank you, Woody.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a tough one. What's the next thing on our agenda?
Okay, let's move it on. Move it on.
We changed up some things. That was A and B. So C is still C. Is that correct? Carrie? So I think C remains C in the shuffle that
And D and E are eliminated.
D and E are A and B now. A and B become D and E. So let's go to C. She didn't change that one, which is C is up now. An ordinance to allow sewer main extension and connection fees to be collected on the county tax roll. It's recommended that the board consider directing council to draft an ordinance to allow sewer main extension and connection fees to be collected on the county tax roll over a period of time as determined by the board of directors.
I move that emotion.
Do we have the time period on this? It says up to 30 years, but we need to put it in past. Okay, we got a motion to what, Don? I'm sorry.
To direct council to draft an ordinance to allow sewer main extension and connection fees to be protected on the county tax rolls over a period of time as determined by the board.
Okay. It's been
I second
seconded by Director Fuller. In past history, we essentially, this was an item that's voted on every single year.
Mhm.
I don't know the reasoning for that. Because as you know, we pay the county $1 or $1.50 for mailing these out and collecting the taxes, which would cost the district, of course, much more money than that.
Right.
Do either one of you gentlemen have an idea of the time period you like?
Oh, may I? Sorry.
Yes, Director Fuller.
If you would like to shorten it to 15 years, I would be fine with that.
I agree. Second it.
I don't have a problem with that. The only thing I'm thinking of is in future, for future boards, should we just make it 5 years and let someone revisit this, the new board at that time, revisit it and make their decision on it?
I don't understand that.
Well, a future board may change their mind.
Well, then they can change it. But
They
I
can
mean,
do
if we give them 15 years to pay, I think that's great. I think that's better for us because normally we would be waiting for a home to sell or something before they hooked up. But this
Okay.
way, it's a small carrot, but I think it's a good one, and I'm hopeful people will take advantage of it, and we'll get our money sooner than later.
Yep.
Or 10 even. What would you like? Five, I just think is almost the same as paying it right now. It doesn't give people enough time.
You know, this is a pretty big item. In that we have 40 deferrals right now of $1,250,000. And of course, this is new connections in the future. I think we have 350 septics within our district that hopefully through time will be hooked up. Sewer main extension.
I mean,
Sewer main.
I think it will get us more money. I think it will get us more money faster than just saying we got 50% participation. And then the other guys, we just have to wait because for whatever reason, they don't want to spend the money. But if we give them another option to do it, I think it will get us more money. I really do. I think it's going to make us more in a better position.
And I understand that point of view. It's just that it puts the district in the position of deferring payments over some period of time.
If I may, Woody, we're already in that position right now of deferring. Would you like to add something into this where we get a 50% people willing to just pay the money and then offer this to the other people or something? Maybe because we're going to go ahead anyway. If we get 50%, we're supposed to go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to pull the trigger.
So what this ordinance would do, Mark, is say we pick the number is 15 years. And for a round number, say the fees and the extension cost are $100,000. That 100,000 be divided over 15 years plus some interest rate. And that's what they would be charged on their property tax bill each year.
Yeah, so this action is to provide direction to me to begin the process. I've done nothing on this other than what I did 15 years ago or something. So I'm not really in a position to provide any advice. I mean, I can help talk about it a little bit, but this is to initiate this project with you folks. So I haven't spent time looking at this and doing the legal research to give you an answer.
So people, if they defer, like we have 83 that are deferred right now currently, 43 of those are from assessment districts, which have already paid back in the 60s, and it's been over half a century and they're still not hooked up. And then we have 40 that are about within the last 20 years that haven't paid anything, and there's an interest rate clicking on that, whatever our fund makes it LAIF or whatever it is with the county. So their choice would be right now is they defer and just don't pay anything. If we pass this ordinance, they could pay a little something each year rather than not paying anything. Is that right?
That's what I think.
Is that a question to me or is that a question to?
Yeah, that's to Mark. I'm sorry.
So let me, yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't clear. So I haven't, this action is for the board to decide whether this is something you want to spend legal fees on looking at. I don't know the answers to this stuff. So I haven't spent a penny of your money on looking at this stuff because
this is for you to research to see if it's legal for us to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got you. I'm sorry.
We come back with answers and an ordinance that you all could adopt. So this is just a conceptual thing that somebody thinks is a good idea.
That's why there's not a period of time in here.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
You're just finding out if it's legal for us to do.
Exactly.
My only concern is this, gentlemen, is that Gary and Don, is that if you have somebody out there that's ready to write the district a check for $105,000 because they're capable to do it and participate, they may take this option to make payments.
And I agree, but this is just to look into it. That's
okay.
Like the next conversation.
Got you. Okay, good point. All right. Well, we got a motion and a second. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Go back out to the public for any comment.
At this time, I do not see any hands raised or people unmuting themselves.
Okay. Back to the board for discussion. Is there any? All right. Carrie, would you read the motion as it stands, please?
Motion as it stands is to direct council to draft an ordinance for property owners to elect to have connection fees, inspection fees, and proportionate share of sewer main extension costs collected on the county tax roll over a period of time for the time period to be determined.
Okay. Now, Mark, that motion is good. That's the wording that's in the agenda. But is it more or less for you to research it or to go ahead and draft it?
So the way I view this is the expectation is that I'll come back with an ordinance that accomplishes those objectives, if it's possible, or I'll let you know that no, it's illegal or it's one or the other. So, and then there will have to be some additional guidance as to the time period provided by the board.
Okay.
So that's how I view this.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Carrie, you want to put it to a vote, please?
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
and that's with Director Newquist and Director Johnson as absent.
Okay. Motion
Okay, keep-
passes. So
Keep
now
it rolling.
pardon me? Yay.
Keep it rolling, Director. Keep it rolling.
Okay. 5A,
Man,
5A has changed into 5D as in dog. Committee report, ad hoc committee. It is recommended that the board consider hearing a report by the ad hoc committee related to the Lilac and Oak Grove sewer main extension, directors Barrett and Eversol. Did you want to talk about this one, Don, since you and I did have our ad hoc meeting?
we did, and we determined that it would be that, I think it was 65% of the residents approving it because it's $2.3 million.
We discussed at length about the district already has 1,250,000 in deferrals.
Right.
And if we are trying to come up with a percentage of participation that would be palatable for the district to take on. We have two big projects here. And maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but our annual budget's 4.8 million.
Right.
And if we take on another 1.5 million there and 2 million there, and we already have 1.25 million, pretty soon we're going to exceed our budget.
Yep.
And deferrals. That's my concern. So that's what Don and I discussed at length. Over some very strong coffee. Holy
Yes.
moly.
Yes, it was
It was.
very strong.
That was I felt like I was in South Louisiana.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's pretty much the what we came up with in our ad hoc is proposed to the board to set the bar at 65% participation in order
Yep.
to go forward with the project. But that's our meeting. Did anybody have any questions, anything? Director Fuller?
Do we, just real quick, I know we have a budget of 4 million or whatever the number was, but we still have
2.3.
the amount that we have in reserves and stuff. I mean, if we approve a bigger budget, we could do that or no? I mean, does it put us, you were talking about like well, that's okay. Never mind. We can vote on that if you'd like.
Well-
May I motion to vote?
Well, it's not a votable item. We're just,
Okay.
the ad hoc's just
No.
reporting back to the board.
Yeah.
So that's our recommendation and the board can take it or reject it. I mean,
Yes.
Duly noted.
yeah. So
Director Barrett,
yes,
can I just make one statement to help clarify that number about the 4.x million? So
4.8.
yeah, 4.8. Yeah. And so, so the numbers that were presented as part of the budget, the numbers that you saw, because we were kind of going with the rule of thumb in the past, which was 50% contribution, those are the numbers that are in for the expected cost next year, just to be clear on that. So the upshot is if you get more participation, the net cost of the district would actually go down. I just want to make sure that's clear, so that whatever the board decides to do, and it's really up to the board, it only helps, obviously, the more people you get, but we had to pick a number for assumptions so that we could show that we had enough if you did get the 50% to move forward with the project. So
no, I appreciate that. You had to pick a number and that's what the district has done in the past is try
Yeah.
to get a 50% participation. The only time that changed was about 2 years ago with the Ribbon Rock project. Of course, Tom Belay was the president at the time. He had to recuse himself from any voting because he lives on Ribbon Rock. But that was a smaller project. It started out at $355,000, I think. I think it ended up being more than that because they probably hit some boulders or whatever. But we dropped below the 50% participation because it was a small project. These are huge. These are big numbers.
Yeah.
And the combining of them exceeds our, annual budget actually. So, and I understand they're in a different category. They're capital improvement. I get that. I just don't want to see the district take on too much deferral debt. Which at some point in time will come back, I understand. So that's the report by the ad hoc. Thank you, General Manager Rare. So now we go to 5B, which is now changed to E. Lilac and Oak Grove Sewer Main Extension. It's recommended that the board consider discussing Lilac and Oak Grove Sewer Main Extension bids and taking such additional related action that may be desirable. I may mention that we were talking so much about participation factor. I forgot to mention in our ad hoc committee meeting, Don and I discussed this at length also. What we were going to propose to the board was this: taking all new bids. And the bids would be in this fashion: one bid for the combined project, Lilac and Oak Grove, and then two additional bids, one for Lilac and one for Oak Grove. And then compare the overall huge project with breaking it into two projects. And I know that's lots of work for the bidders, but hopefully not too much, and that they're, if they're looking at the overall project, they just have to break down if is it more expensive to do it separately or together. And that's based on the person from the public. Okay.
Sorry.
The person from the public that was there last time, I forgot her name, that lives in that area, that there was more interest in Lilac than there was in Oak Grove in participating, or something like that. And I may have it backwards. So that's what we considered to bring to the board to propose, essentially bidding it all new and taking into account that staff, especially Carrie, had mentioned in a previous meeting that the risk in taking all new bids is they may come in higher because the bids we have were at X point in time.
I have to leave now.
Oh, no. So we're not going to vote on anything.
No, well, I mean, I told Doran that I had to leave in 2 hours.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Director Eversole.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Carrie, would you note that Director Eversole left at, what time is it right now?
4 o'clock.
4:02 p.m.
Yes.
4:02.
Right.
So we've lost a quorum. We no longer have a quorum, so we'll have to adjourn the meeting.
We'll have to adjourn the meeting. That's what I was going to ask legal
Oh, sorry.
counsel.
I'm here. Sorry, what happened?
No, now we only have two, so we don't have.
We
a quorum.
only have two directors, so we have to adjourn the meeting. Gary,
I had to go. Oh, did Eversole leave?
yes, he has to take off. He only had 2 hours.
Oh, bummer.
So
We were doing good. We did.
we
good.
were cooking. Shoot. All right. Well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we need to adjourn. We go to the very back, adjournment, I suppose. Do I need to ask if there are any questions from the public or for the next agenda, Mark?
So I guess, Brad, what I would suggest is I don't take a look at the rest of the agenda that wasn't discussed. If there's anything urgent on there, then I would just add it to I guess it's going to be a special meeting on June 30th. I just don't know if there's some pending issue on the other items or if alternatively you can just work with Director Johnson or President Johnson on getting that together. So.
Thank you, Mark. No, there's nothing else on here that we need that would require board immediate action. So
okay.
My proposal would be just to work with Director Johnson to push what she'd like on next special meeing. Otherwise, it would get pushed to the July 8th next general meeting.
Okay. All right. That's all we can do. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Can't have a
I'll
motion. You don't need a motion. There's not a.
Oh, don't need a motion.
A meeting. The meeting has been adjourned by.
The meeting's ended.
So, yes. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.